You're a fool blaming Trump. What are you doing for this destruction of these animals destroying Los Angeles? Are you there, talking calmly with them, you fool? They would burn you down like they're burning the cars and the American flag with no regard for humanity. This is not about Trump. This is about protecting the people from these animals and criminals trying to destroy us. And our police force, are they supposed to stand there, let rocks hit them and kill them? Who's going to save them? You? You're a disgrace. You're nothing but a lying dog for the hopes of becoming the president one day.
Take it from John Voight. He knows what he's talking about. Oh, is my mic coming in? Should be. Oh, yeah, there we go. It was just below a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah, we're good. Yeah, John Voight, and he most certainly is, he's right about that one. It's interesting to watch people like John Voight and Mel Gibson. They come out and they're like, oh, whoops. Get out of here. Come on. Jeez. Hit a bunch of buttons and accidentally didn't lock my phone. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, they both have been pretty vocal about their anger at our beloved governor, Mr. Newsom, because I would imagine it probably has something to do with the fact that they live in the areas that are probably pretty close to where the fires were, so they're fed up by that point. But even if they didn't, I think they're at least honest enough with people to, God damn it, come on, to kind of be like, hey, I don't like the fact that our governor does nothing but put on a shit ton of hair gel and go out and mug in front of the cameras with this shit-eating grin and try to act like he cares about anything except himself. I don't really like that. I don't really like that very much at all. And I don't think people should put up with it, and they should understand what's actually going on. So at least we got a couple of guys like that are from Southern California and that actually will speak out about it. Mel Gibson was on a episode of Joe Rogan not too long ago. It was actually really good and really good talk. But anyway, how's everybody doing today? I'm doing all right. I had an MRI today. That was fun. The first time I've ever had that going on. People were mentioning to me because there's been situations where I have been like kind of claustrophobic, but it's more about about where I've been rather than it being a tight space. Like for example, I can't really think of an example. Honestly, I could just say it's like been areas where I just already felt uncomfortable. It didn't have anything to do with the space. But I will say that when I first moved into the tube, I was like, oh no, is this going to make me feel like worried? And then as I got in there, I realized, well, no, not really. And I think the biggest part was because like being half in and half out kind of gives you the feeling like, well, this is not like such a time. I mean, if I wanted to, I could pull myself out and just go, woo, and, just go flying out that way. So it's more like if I was in a space where I was actually enclosed and even if I could get out, it felt like I was trapped, like there's nowhere for me to move anything, then I might have that feeling. But because there was the ability to like actually move almost anywhere I want my limbs to go, then it wasn't so bad. And on top of that, I didn't know they do this, but they give you the little thing in your hand to squeeze if it's an emergency and you really have to get out. Otherwise, you're going to go have like a panic attack or something. And I didn't even request that or anything. I didn't even put down that I was claustrophobic. He just gave it to me anyway. He's like, just in case, we give everybody this to make sure they know that if they do need to get it out, then they can just squeeze this and it's emergency to. I was like, oh, okay, cool, sweet. So it was a very different experience. I've never been someone who's been in need of any kind of extreme hospital care at any point in my life. My brother has asthma and had several really bad episodes when we were growing up, and so he's a little bit more used. Like, he had to stay in the hospital overnight at one time when he had a really bad bout of asthma. Like, his chest was just sunk in super big. Like, it just looked really bad. So and then they had him hooked up to an IV, and it was bad. He was like 8 years old, so he had way more experience than I did. I didn't have anything like that come up. The only thing that happened was at 5 years old, I had to get stitches because I cut my thumb with a pocket knife. And the only traumatic thing there was we were supposed to go play mini golf that day, and we didn't. So, but that wasn't too traumatic. So I guess it wasn't too life-ruining either. And now that I'm older and I am going to go to an MRI, I'm going for an MRI or going to have a blood draw or going to a doctor to discuss something serious or whatever, it feels very strange, but it also feels kind of appropriate. Like, well, you're getting to the age where it's going to happen more and more, and it's like, no, I don't want to get to the age where it's happening. But anyway, those are just my own worries. How is everybody doing? I hope you're all doing very well. It's strange being in California, but I will tell you this. I do have some messages from around this area that would be maybe surprising to people that don't live in California, and they might give you a little bit more hope or a little bit more optimism, I guess, for people that aren't as familiar with some areas of California that don't get any kind of attention whatsoever. And I think it's important that those sorts of things get out too, because it's not just all a complete, land full of absolute morons that have no idea what's going on and are just complete, they have a picture of Hugo Chavez on their wall or something, Cesar Chavez, Cesar Chives or whatever. He's not a dictator or anything, but he led a farm union, so that might piss some people off. But anyway, no, there's still plenty of people in this state that are not. As a matter of fact, if you look at the exit polls from the last election, I was very proud to see the Valley actually was slightly tinted red. So the Valley actually went definitely to the right, as at the same time, unfortunately, the areas that have the densest population, which are, of course, Southern California and Bay Area all along the coastline, all of those just were as deep as blue as you can get, so that kind of destroyed the rest of the state's changes. But there you have it. So we'll be talking about that. But sorry, I got Italian ice cream here again, and it's really good. And I tried to eat it fast, but it's really thick, so it's hard to eat it super fast unless it gets like really melty. Then it goes down really quick. Anyway, so I've been watching the riots and just looking on and thinking, first of all, how is it we ended up in this situation again, where not the situation where people are rioting, the situation where we literally have a one-for-one carbon copy of the last time this happened, literally down to a T. You have CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all saying the same stupid shit, the same damn line. I swear it's the most ridiculous thing ever to get people to try to get people to believe that these have been mostly peaceful. Mostly peaceful. That worked during COVID when you locked everybody down and everyone was going nuts because we were losing our minds indoors. But we're out in the open a lot more now, and I have to say, if you think we're going to believe that again, I mean, there may be a handful of idiots that still believe you for whatever reason, because they're dedicated to your stupidity, or they're still so hysterically angry at Trump. But for the rest of anyone out there who actually has two brain cells firing that, are actually, got something going on up in their head, the idea that these are mostly peaceful, as you watch cop cars burn and stores get looted and people getting chased down and hear gunshots going off and hear about people getting killed and hear about... I'm sorry, this isn't peaceful. There's not one aspect of this that's peaceful. And of course, not just our beloved media, but our even better, our politicians are out there doing the same thing, trying to lie. And who's leading the charge? Of course, none other than the lunatic witch lady of the House herself, Maxine Waters. Oh, geez, if Biden was like senile and going out of his mind by being like super quiet and getting tired all the time, she's going senile by becoming that hysterical kind of senile where she starts yelling at the wall about something. She's just angry at everything and everyone, and she sees if someone who's not there, and it's someone like maybe Ted Cruz or something, like somebody she hates. Yeah, I know he's in the Senate, but still, I mean, I can't think of anybody. Well, Jim Jordan or maybe Chip Roy or something like that. She sees him and starts yelling at him like, "How dare you? I'm gonna form a crowd and push back on you because you're not welcome here. I'm Maxine Waters. I'm gonna make a bill against you." Like that's the kind of crazy she's going, and it's not a pretty sight. Seeing her make every excuse in the book for people that are trying to kill cops and insisting that these protests are getting a bad rap. They're mostly completely peaceful, and it is so pathetic. It's so pathetic because like I said, we've seen this before, and we know what happened last time. There's still sections of the city of Minnesota and of sections in Wisconsin and sections there's areas where the Summer of Love 2020 riots were going on that are still just a wasteland. Like, that was the peaceful protest. And we're seeing it again, and you expect, with there being the evidence now that still exists that you can go and see today of the wasteland left behind from 2020, and we're supposed to believe now that this is still some peaceful thing? Like, this is just a peaceful protest about these poor immigrant families that you're tearing apart, and for no reason, and just grabbing them off the street with these masked men, and they're coming and taking them. I heard Tom Homan describe one of the immigrant detention facilities the other day. I was both laughing and furious at the same time, because he was describing... first he described this thing, and it was cool to hear. I wish I'd saved this, but I would have played this clip for sure, but I'll just describe it because I didn't have a chance to clip it. He was talking to Dave Rubin, and he mentioned that the last pickup, because Dave mentioned that you're always made out to be a guy that doesn't care about immigrants, but you obviously care a lot because you talk about the safety of immigrants all the time. And he talked about how he had arrested a kid who was, he may have been 18 or 19. He was definitely like close to an adult, if not already legally an adult. But he was obviously shaken and really scared while they were being processed. And he noticed him crying when he was walking by the area. So he told Dave that he sat down next to the kid, talked to him, found out, what's up, man? What are you worried about? What's got you upset? And he was freaked out. Guess what? Because of the way these places have been made out to be. not because of the reality of what was going on around him, but because he believed he was going to be killed. He actually thought he was going to be headed for a concentration camp or something. Like, he thought he was going to be sent to a death camp or something. That's what the fucking media has done to this thing. That people that are, even like this kid who, he was here illegally, sure, but he's going to be deported, and a lot of these people get convinced at this stage of the process, instead of fighting it anymore, we both are here and can say, obviously, that, yeah, you crossed and you're not supposed to be here. And you can fight it and try to apply for asylum or whatever means you're trying to get into the country. Or you can choose to self-deport right now, and we'll provide you a flight back to your home country. We'll provide you with $1,000, and we will provide you with an eventual date which you can reapply to legally become an American citizen at that time. Because, we know you did something that you weren't supposed to do, but we also understand that, you see this place as a place you want to live and want to contribute to. So if that is something that's true, we'll give you another chance to do it the right way if you choose to self-deport now. I think that was one of the best things they could institute as a policy, was the self-deportation idea. And I don't know if I don't know for sure. I think I would bet the kid probably took it, but he didn't really mention anything else after that. But what he did about the case, but what he did mention is that on site at these detention facilities, they literally are. No one's locked behind any gates. It's not like a prison. No one's locked behind doors. No one's handcuffed or walked around that way. No one's like, they're all kept together. If it's a family unit, they're kept together. They're given a room for their own privacy, and they even have. He said something like, I can't remember. It was like, was it yoga classes or something like that in the mornings for people to keep active while they wait to be processed and returned home. Like, these are not in any way, shape, or form inhumane places. These are places that seem like, hey, this isn't a bad place to be while I'm waiting to be deported back to my home country. And that's the other thing that has made the situation so disgusting, is the way that they, it is partly in a way kind of on Trump, but that's only, I think, for the fear factor of it, like as a prevention tactic. Like, yeah, we're going to open Guantanamo Bay up for illegal, which, he doesn't mention the fact that there's a whole, you only heard about in the news, places like Camp X-Ray, where they were, holding the most high-value terrorist targets and people on the most wanted list. They were holding all the most dangerous people in areas that were reported on, but there's a whole different section of Guantanamo Bay that's not at all like the places that you associate with the place and think about when you hear the name of the place. It's built as a immigrant processing facility where if they make a claim, they are held in that location until their claim is processed, and depending on the result, they're either released into the United States or they're sent back home. But the point is that this has already been operating as a place that was a transitory facility for detainment for immigrants when they arrived here and had a claim that needed to be adjudicated. So that's not doing anything out of the ordinary. That's just going back to the way the place has always functioned. And then to go with Alcatraz, well, okay, that one might be, a little over the top, but I don't think anybody thinks Alcatraz is actually going to become functional again. I mean, it is a intimidating facility, and it is one that has a, real crazy history, but at the same time, it would be, it'd be a hell of a project to actually get that place up and running again when there's, who knows how many detention facilities. I'm still kind of curious as to how many of them got shut down during the Biden administration, how many of them actually got closed down and aren't used for the purpose they were supposed to be used for. And I also am aware that as far as the immigration courts and immigration judges are concerned, there's definitely a lot operating, but not nearly enough, because the Justice Department under Biden didn't want a bunch of immigration judges all working to quickly go through the cases. They wanted a backlog so that everyone that was here could stay here as long as they were having their case still pending. And I remember the last time I heard it reported on, they were saying that people that were here claiming asylum and waiting for their case to be heard were told to expect a date like 2038 or something like that. Like seriously, like 12 years, 13 years from now, that's when they're supposed to be having their date to have their case adjudicated and deciding. And by that point, then even if it is a case where they say no, then you're going to have your little late night you have Jimmy Kimmel come out and cry because they've been here for over 10 years contributing, and it just makes me sick the way that people. I mean, first of all, they're using the immigrant population, the illegal immigrant population, but nevertheless, they're using people who most likely were tricked to come here and saying, hey, they're letting people into the U.S. Go. They're letting them in. They're just letting them in now. So I have sympathy for them in that regard, because, how many of these people were just convinced that, that's fine now. They just changed their laws and they have a new president, and he's of course, he's super giving. He's just a bastion of what's the word? He's a bastion of compassion and kindness and giving, and he really cares about people. Unless you're talking about Corn Pop, he doesn't have a soft spot for Corn Pop, because Corn Pop was a bad dude and he ran with a bunch of bad boys. But everybody else, he's pretty. He likes the kids at the pool that rub his legs down. God, it's creepy. We're going to be going over something with him today, actually, by the way, and I haven't discussed old Joe in a while, but they're going over some unfinished business in the Senate today, and they have been discussing this a little bit on Capitol Hill recently, and I'm glad they are. I hope this actually goes somewhere, though, this time, and it isn't just just something that is really important and everybody treats as super important until the Democrats decide, who cares, we're going to just fuck this, we're going to ruin it. But they're discussing mostly, it's around it's a combination of the auto pen discussion, and it's also around the competency level of the president, and what you should do if you're somebody that's on the staff of a president who you notice in the course of doing your job that is not capable of making decisions or even being mentally capable of just being present and conscious and aware of everything that's going on at a cabinet meeting, like something as simple as that. And I always remember back to the infamous meeting in the White House where he literally hands over the meeting to his I guess his surrogate president, Dr. Jill, and the infamous line of "Take it away, kid." First of all, to refer to your wife as kid in that scenario was kind of strange in and of itself. But on top of that, you're telling your wife, the first lady, you're in charge of this cabinet meeting now. Go ahead. I'm going to have a nap. Okay. It's like, what's going on here? What the hell is going on here? And how in the hell are the Democrats defending this? Anyway, I'm going to be going hard on some of them today because honestly they deserve it. But one thing I've noticed from them lately is that they've really. Some people are saying that they just don't know how to cope with what's going on, and I admit that might be a possibility. But I also think it's possible that something else is going on. I think they're so egomaniacally, like, just insidious in the way that they've always perceived things. Like, they always have had this superimposed image of themselves as this incredibly inspiring figure, that they actually think that they are doing anything that is getting people motivated to support the actual party in some way, shape, or form. Again, like, they actually think they're the great leaders of today that are going to save the country. I would not be surprised if that was the case because of the way they speak. They speak with this tone. Like, look at Cory Booker. I swear, we'll watch a clip with him in just a second. But the guy, the way he emotes everything, and the way he uses his hands, and just, then he starts breaking down, crying every 5 seconds. And it's, once again, the overly emotional Democratic Party, especially the overly emotional men, or quote unquote men, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? They of the Democratic Party, whatever they want to be called, they really are not suited, as far as I can tell, to run anything. And once again, this goes back to, like, not just Joe Biden, but the Democrats. And this has really got me concerned now, because if anybody's watching, that, like, I've talked about this before, and it's true. Like, if you watch C-SPAN or you watched any kind of congressional channel on television or online or whatever, it is usually just a snooze fest. Nothing was going on. That's not the way it is today. It's definitely not boring. It's more like Jerry Springer, though, now. It's seriously devolved into some of the most pathetic people throwing out some of the most ridiculous arguments and stupid statements and positions that make literally no sense. And yet their whole goal is to have a gotcha moment on camera. They treat people incredibly disrespectfully, especially on the Democrat side, of course. But the Republicans are unfortunately fine with, going in hard on a witness, which, okay, that's good. When someone's seems like they're lying to you and they're a witness before Congress or the Senate, like, yeah, good. You should go after that guy hard. But why can't you do that to your shit colleagues that are putting forth the most bad faith, nonsensical, unrealistic, and hypocritical in every way counter arguments to everything? Everything is always changing the subject back to Trump. Everything is always a sort of like an attempt at trying to paint the other side as being the ones who are being the hypocrites, when lo and behold, no, actually it's you guys that are being the complete and total hypocrites in this situation. Because look, it boils down to, actually, let's just go into one of the clips. This will prove my point a little bit better. Because I have a few things we can go over today. This is just insane, and I'm gonna try to not go over too many, but because there's a lot of things to go over today. By the way, real quick, I'll just mention this now because this is going to be a whole episode onto itself, and I'm probably gonna have to save this for maybe tomorrow, I hope. But I have been paying attention to what's been going on with Tucker Carlson, and today it was Ted Cruz. The day before it was, who was it? He was talking to somebody else, and he was on Steve Bannon's show, and he was talking about there. It was Mark Levin. That was not long ago, which Mark Levin is pretty unhinged in a lot of cases. Now, sometimes he provides some pretty good insight into constitutional matters, but when it comes to moral issues where there's an outrage that is needing to be discussed, it's not the best it's not the best source of information, let's say. But this time he's interviewing Ted Cruz, and the clip pretty much speaks for itself. But I'm really getting a bad feeling because of one reason more than any other, and it's something I'm going to discuss during this episode too. So don't worry, you won't have to wait till next time. And I'll just say right now, it is that the midterms coming up next year. I'm not worried about their side doing anything special. I'm worried about our side blowing it so bad that people actually think that somehow or another there may be better ideas on the other side. And that's just not the case. That won't be the case for a long time until they really do something different. Because they are in, if the Republicans are in disarray, the Democrats are in complete and total, like, upside down world chaos. Like they're in a completely different dimension. There's nothing that reflects reality in anything the Democrats do anymore. Nothing. They can't acknowledge their own issues. They can't acknowledge their own flaws. They can't acknowledge anything they've done that's wrong. They are totally and 100% hive-minded now, to the point that, well, why don't we start here? John Fetterman, the guy that was praised so heavily because he had to beat Dr. Oz in the primaries, or not the primaries, the general, for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania, and it was a race where, as I've talked about before, his opening line the night of the debate was, "Hi, good night, everyone." That's John Fetterman. But I'll just play the clip. If this is enough to get you, if this is enough to earn you the ire of, influential Democrat representatives, though, this is why I get nervous, because these people are not going to deliver anything good to the American people. They are not doing that now. Their plan seems to be obvious at this point. Their plan is one thing and one thing only. They're trying to lay the foundations already, and you can see it as plain as day. It's obvious as hell exactly what they're doing. What they're doing right now is they're hoping desperately that they win back either the House or the Senate, hopefully both in their eyes, I'm sure. But they're desperately hoping to get at least one, because they need to have those impeachment proceedings. They've got to get those impeachment proceedings. And what they're doing right now is, there's nothing else you can describe it as. They're laying the foundation for the impeachment case. They're trying to lay it all out, lay out all the reasons why. And it's such horse shit that it's incredibly difficult to believe that this is what they're trying to actually hang their reputation on, this kind of argument. And yet, of course, being the bottom of the barrel as far as people in this country, because that's what we have now for representatives, and it's incredible to think that these are the people that people looked at and were like, "Yep, that's who I want representing me. That's it. That's who I want." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" We'll go over one real special case too, Senator Padilla today, who I can say, because I think sadly, in fact, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive, shamefully, not that I voted for him, no, I didn't vote for him, but he is in fact the senator for this area. At the bare minimum, I could say, as hard to believe as it is, the other part of California, they got the far worse end of the deal. And that's because they got Adam Schiff. But still, it's still, Senator Padilla, it's bad enough. That's bad enough. We don't need anything worse than that. And you'll see why with the clip I'm going to go into with that. But first, this is just an idea of the party of compassion, ladies and gentlemen. Party of compassion, transparency, openness, and fair discussions with people. this is the way they treat John Fetterman, and this is the way a member of the House, who's the biggest rat in the freaking building, by the way, how they treat a reporter or a journalist asking just a simple question. So we'll watch that first, and then we'll go on from there. But this is a great example of exactly what I'm talking about with these just garbage human beings, terrible human beings. I don't know any other way to describe them. Absolutely despicable, horrible people. So let's start with this. Let's start with, oh, hold on. Make sure that's off, and we'll go pull this up. Oh yeah. Oh, I just turned it off. There we go. Okay. And we're good. So okay. All right. Let's hit it.
Somebody who seems to be absolutely on the outs with his own party, Senator John Fetterman, facing backlash yet again from the Democrats for supporting Trump's military parade on Saturday, posting the following on X. This parade is comprised of our sons, daughters, mothers, and fathers, the very best of us. Regardless of your politics, it's appropriate to celebrate the 250 years of sacrifice, dedication, and service, but that wasn't good enough for...
Now, think about that for just a second. Just think about how that was enough to get the Democrats angry. Because he was trying to say, hold on, let's not go and condemn the military celebration today, because it's not about Trump, it's about the military. It's about our actual army and our Navy and Marines, the people that have been on the front lines of the most horrific combat situations in the last 250 years for the United States, that have fought all the battles and come back home and faced different types of responses depending on the war and depending on the generation. But today's a day where we should show our respect for them and our appreciation by honoring them and honoring their sacrifices and honoring the people that still serve and have served, and as a day to reflect on that. That was too much to ask, and you know why? Because Trump was there. And that's all you need. If Trump's there, then okay, it's a terrible, evil event that needs to be condemned. I'm sure. What the fuck is wrong with you? It's the most mild message I've ever heard in my life from someone from a country, and trying to show some respect to their military. And someone gets so upset about that, they have to condemn the guy that said it? Not just the president they despise so much, but the guy that said, hey, this isn't about the president, it's about the military. I would be stunned if I didn't know these people were capable of the lowest of the low, but it's still even though I know and I'm totally prepared for it, it's still amazing that it still sends a shock to the system to hear what they get mad about. It's incredible. So.
The left, a Philadelphia progressive group leader calling out Fetterman
sounds like a real winner.
King's protest over the weekend, saying the following: "We are looking to the leaders who will fight for us, because even today there are folks among the Democrat Party who think we should roll over and play dead." Anyone seen John Fetterman here?
Hey, Congressman, quick question for you. So you...
Oh, and here's... Okay, so here's...
My name is Nick. Nick, nice to meet you. I'm from Ed.
So, that's John Fetterman. That's what he has to say, and what someone has to say to him. Now, here's this guy who has a question for like I said, the biggest rat in Congress, Jamie Raskin, the real piece of shit himself. Now, watch the way he talks to this guy. Look at the way he actually interacts with this fellow human being who is there to ask a question and hear some sort of answer, because ultimately This is about his, his tax money and a representative that is supposed to be there for the interests of the people and looking out for them. But let's see how he does in that task. Let's see. I mean, I'm waiting here, on edge of my seat, just wondering how Jamie Raskin is going to actually, how he's going to do in his stance of fighting for the American people. Let's see.
I'm from X, so I have to ask you. Wait, you said Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You voiced a lot of support for him originally. Now he's been charged with facilitating the transport of. Do you get due process? Do you believe in due process? So you come in. You answer me one question. Okay, what was the process that he used to get into the United States? Was it illegal? Did he come into? So you're not going to answer my questions. I answered yours. 50, you're stupid. You didn't answer a single one. You're a moron, okay? As well as a fascist. Go back to your fascist.
So the whole time he was calling him a fascist because he asked a question about their favorite Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy who has no business being in this country, has no business returning to this country, and yet they have nonstop picketed for this piece of garbage over and over again because he didn't get due process. No, he did get due process, jackass. So how about you drop the due process BS and actually answer questions that have something to do with the actual question that's asked of you, instead of just fascist, go back to your QAnon. The only people still using the word or term QAnon is leftist morons like Jamie Raskin, because they're the only ones that even gave it enough validity to make it a thing in the first place. It's unbelievable because, once again, this is not something he's ever equipped with dealing with, and it's not something he can handle. And so he doesn't know how to handle it because he's not used to people coming up to him on the street and asking him a question like that. He doesn't know how to interact with it. So he just does the same thing people on The View do. And by the way, I wasn't ready to do this one today. Maybe I'll go over it a little bit tomorrow or something, but it probably doesn't have enough meat there to really go over it. But I'll just suggest instead you check it out for yourself. If you haven't seen the segment with Arnold Schwarzenegger on The View, it is pretty priceless because I can't tell if this is because of Arnold's age or if it's because he just doesn't engage with politics. I mean, it was clear during COVID he didn't really pay attention to politics, and because he pretty much pissed off every conservative in the party by talking about how you were a girly man if you didn't get the vaccine, and you're like, oh, dude, oh, no, oh, man. And sticking up for the idea of lockdowns, just total shill freaking from the freaking Terminator. He's shilling for fucking he's shilling for the goddamn I don't know. It was really bad. But you can tell he's not Biden level senile, but you can tell that he's not in touch with the modern incarnation of the Democrat Party, so he just answers questions honestly. He just talks about them from his own perspective and doesn't sugarcoat his opinion, doesn't change it based on the situation. He's just speaking from the heart. And they really don't like that at The View. So if you have a chance to check it out, you can check out the way he spoke to them and responded to their questions. And I think the funniest part of the whole thing is that that while the hosts are getting pissed that he is drawing a distinction between legal and illegal immigrants, because of course they want to make sure that people draw no distinction between the two, because after all, it's just a misdemeanor. It's not. There's a million ways I could respond to that. I won't. But the point is that because he didn't dismiss the distinction, and because he actually made clear that there is a difference between legal and illegal immigrant, he already committed one of the grave sins of the left, which is not bending over backwards for anybody here in the country illegally, and making sure that you cater your every word and your every sort of generous statement around the person here illegally in every situation, period, no exceptions. Because he didn't do that, oh man. But the View ladies seemed to have a hard time knowing exactly how to engage, because they could tell that he also was getting to be an elderly gentleman now without that same sort of what would you call it? That burning passion from days like his pumping iron days, where he equated posing on stage to coming, literally. If you've never seen the scene where he describes it, that it's just like having sex with a woman and coming to be on stage and pumping up and pumping iron, and so he's in heaven all the time because he's coming day and night whenever he's in the gym and whenever he's on stage. He's just constantly coming. I swear to God, that's basically the statement. Anyway, but regardless, the point is that they were not happy about his answers at all, and you can tell he kind of doesn't understand, because he's stating such a moderate, down the middle point of view that every single Democrat with a brain, that regardless of whether their policies reflected this or not, always at least said that we have to make sure that we draw a distinction between people who go about the process the right way and the wrong way, and then meanwhile Obama's trying to start this coalition, even though he's deporting all these people. But the point is that, and I guess in a way he was right, because maybe he was looking for the right people, because as we've seen, now that the data is out, it's clear that Hispanic men specifically actually had a majority of them vote for Trump, which is one hell of a swing. But it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all that Hispanic men would be far more for Trump than for Kamala Harris. But anyway, it's a real sight to behold. So check out that clip with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Meanwhile, we also have let's see, what was I gonna lead that into? Because I mean, there's enough degeneracy to go around all those. Yeah, and that was where we were going. So here's another example of what our absolutely benevolent Senate is doing, and this is once again disgracefully, unfortunately, the one that represents my county and my district, which, believe me, there's plenty of people I would much rather. I'd write in name of my. I don't know. I don't care who. I'll write in any random dude's name that I can think of that I know is not Senator Padilla, in place of that on the ballot next time. But man, so this starts with a press conference that Kristi Noem, the current Secretary for Department of Homeland Security, she's just giving a press conference on the status of what's going on with the ICE operation in Southern California. And remember, bear in mind, like I said, as far as Southern California goes, they have the misfortune of having probably the worst Senate representative they could possibly have. But hey, that's on them. They picked him. They picked Adam Schiff over Steve Garvey, which is one hell of a mistake as far as I'm concerned. But because I mean, geez, what a distinction there. Steve Garvey and Adam Schiff. My goodness, what the hell is wrong with you? Anyway, so but Alex Padilla is not gonna just go down and play dead. No, he wants to show he's contributing just as much as anyone else, maybe even more so, because he's gonna go in and he's gonna bust this press conference, and he's gonna lay it all out about how Kristi Noem is a tyrant, and so is the whole ICE operation that they're trying to hold in Southern California. They're just hauling people off and unmarked vans like the tyrants they are, and they're all wearing masks because they're evil. It's actually because they're getting doxxed and their family's getting doxxed. But that's not what Senator Padilla wants you to know. No, Senator Padilla wants you to know that this is a really dangerous situation where a tyrant's going to take over. And as he is just preparing to unload on the tyrant, in come the fuzz and like, no, you get out of here. He's like, I'm a senator, and they're like, yeah, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And it really was beautiful because it's like, because as much as they want to tell you otherwise, no, this isn't how senators behave. This isn't how things like this come about. When they say their job is oversight, okay, you can have your job of oversight. That means that you call the department you're interested in viewing and you set up an appointment. It could be as early as that afternoon. It could be as late as, a week or two later. Who knows? The point is, you don't just show up to an event where nobody knows you're coming. Nobody knows who you are. As much as you desperately want them to all know who you are, nobody knows who you are. And expect that you're just going to be able to barge in there, ruin the whole thing by taking it over and making it your event, instead of it being an event of the secretary describing to everyone and updating them on the procedures that are going on and how the situation is progressing. Instead, you want to grandstand about how once again, it goes back to the stupid due process argument. It goes back to the stupid racist, fascist, authoritarian argument. It goes back to all the other stupid arguments. But this time, you caught a glimpse of this with that that situation in, where was that, Connecticut, where they went to that ICE facility and they're like, we're here to do our job of oversight and make sure everyone's okay. It's like, no, you're not. You're not here to see if everyone's okay. You're here to cause a scene. You're here to cause trouble. You're here to make a ruckus. You're here to threaten staff, probably. You're here to threaten the people that are working here, which, nice look. And you're also here to make damn sure that you disrupt ICE as much as they possibly can be disrupted for the time period that you're able to stay there. Because, like, how do I know that? Well, just watch what happens and watch what ensues. And thank God that it wasn't another situation where something happens and there's a claim of someone doing something that is obviously way off base and obviously way too far away from whatever it is you think you should do or you think would be best for you to do. No, this is a situation where you have a guy who is trying to make a name for himself by pretending to be standing up to the authority. And I mean, this becomes such a ridiculously obvious charade. Every appearance is always them acting. It's just a big act. And they're terrible actors, so it makes it even worse because you know exactly what they're doing and what they're trying to do. They're trying to paint a picture to make ICE look evil. The immigrants all look like sad, poor, peaceful victims. And that couldn't be any more divorced from reality than virtually anything I've ever heard in my life because, like, more than anything, well, anyway, I'll stop talking about it. There's so much to be said about this, and it's unbelievable. They really think that they have the ability to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and if they get questioned about it, well, I'm a member of the Senate, and I'm in the Oversight Committee, so it's my job to do oversight. That's like saying I'm in the Armed Services Committee, so I have control over all of the armed services and what they do and where they go and what we're at war with. It's like, no, that's not what it means to be on the committee. That doesn't mean that you have, all these self-designated duties and privileges based on your title. There's things that the committee does do, and there's things that the committee has no ability to do, and then there's things that the Senate and the House in general don't have the ability to do. So the whole oh man. Anyway, let's just get on with this jackass, and let's see his unfortunately so traumatic incident with what are they called? Well, first it is seeing ICE, but then it's mostly interacting with police and Border Patrol. So anyway, let's see how Senator Padilla gets through this situation. So hang on. Let's find it. Oops. I hope I didn't mess anything up with the sound in the background. I don't think so, though. Anyway, I know my mic was on, so it's fine, but where is our clip? Oh, no, actually, before I forget it, I should turn that off. All right. There we go. Where's... Hang on. Oh, I'm gonna have to just... Oh, wait. Ah, here we go. Yeah, that's right. I have it as a clip. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, and is that it? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, let's watch the noble Senator Padilla and his valiant effort to stand up to the tyrant here, Kristi Noem. So yeah, here we go. Hope you're ready for this one. Jeez.
Burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Senator Alex Padilla, I have questions for the secretary. Because
Look
the
at him.
fact of the matter is,
Look at him. He's still talking.
Criminals that you're rotating on your
I also want to
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead behind my back. All right.
Cool. One hand. Lay flat.
Just
Lay flat.
Just think about this for a second, and remember that these are the people that don't go anywhere without their private security. They live in the most, unworried existence you could possibly have in this world, where you have private security 24/7. You have corrupt members of the of law enforcement around to make sure that you're never going to get busted for anything. And you grow so big-headed, you're like, I'm just going to bust this press conference. And then reality comes crashing in that, oh, I can't just go everywhere and be a dick and try and throw my weight around to just get whatever I want. What's this? I'm not supposed to be the one getting handcuffs put on me. I'm a U.S. Senator. I'm standing up for the illegal immigrants. Immigrants that are... These people are just sick. And this is what reminds me, and this is why I emphasize it so strong, because look at the absolute arrogance of everything that they do in their life. It's so infuriating. And then, of course, they go onto the floor when they know that the MSNBC and the CNN cameras are going to be there. And then what do? They play the victim so hard they could they could clench it in their ass and it'd become a diamond. Like, that's how hard they're playing this role. It is insane how these people are like so strong with the holier than thou presence, and yet it's just something like this absolutely mundane, nothing of an interaction where, yeah, they recognize who he is, and then they take the cuffs off and he can go. And then they try and turn this into this huge deal. Unfortunately for Senator Padilla, I believe that this was also the same day. What was going on that day? Was this the same day that... because this was a while ago now. It was... So I think it was the week of... the week before last week. Well, I mean, it was early last week, the week with the No Kings, which we'll go over that a little bit too in a minute. But I can't remember what it was, but something came up just after this to where this whole thing, he planned to make a big stunt, a big name for himself. And probably, honestly, he was looking for a nomination for a potential candidacy for president. It seems very likely that potential is out now. It wasn't exactly the best showing. But either way, that's just like, we'll keep going right now. But that's just, I swear, it infuriates me every time I see it. It just infuriates the absolute smug arrogance, followed by, how can you can't cuff me? I'm Senator Padilla.
Democrats say that.
And here we go.
Resign.
Of course, Dana Bash. We got to go to Dana Bash. Why?
Not my focus right now, but I do think there's some serious questions. How does the cabinet secretary not know the senator from California when she steps foot into Los Angeles?
God.
And she came through the Senate for confirmation.
He just pulled a, do you know who I am? How does the cabinet secretary not know the senator from California? Because she doesn't fucking know who you are, dude. You're not very, first of all, you might be annoying and stupid as fuck, but you're no Adam Schiff. Like, you're not the lowest of the low. We'll make that clear. Like, I hate to give you even any kind of points whatsoever, but if you're going to say anything about remembering people from the House or the Senate, I mean, you have to be either a guy like a Thomas Massey or a Rand Paul, or a Jim Jordan, or, unfortunately, an Adam Schiff. I mean, there's only a few things you can be, and you're none of those. In fact, you're some of the people had no idea. The only reason I knew is because you're in California, and I didn't even know until the last election you were my senator. But, yeah, unfortunately, you're my senator, and I couldn't be happier at laughing at your dumb ass for thinking that you're going to go in there and just be able to ask whatever questions you want. You do realize a Q&A with the community is supposed to be for the community, right? Not for senators who want their little 5 minutes of fame on Spotlight and questions that are going to really own the secretary. It's not about you. It's not about Secretary Noem. It's about what's going on with ICE and the deportation efforts. Sorry you didn't have a chance to get your little publicized moment in the spotlight that you desperately want, but I guess your presidential claim is going to have to come some other way. So anyway, and of course it's on Dana Bash. Like, who else would you go on when you're crying like a little bitch? You have to go on Dana Bash. Anyway, let's get back to this stupid crap.
At one point, and certainly, how does the Secretary of Homeland Security not know how to de-escalate a situation?
De-escalate?
Because they can't, or because they don't want to?
When Senator Padilla
and here we go.
Pushed, shoved, thrown to the handcuffed, because he is asking questions, because he is engaging in the very oversight that senators are supposed to engage in.
No.
And what we're really talking about here
no, Pocahontas,
is
no.
a Trump administration that just wants to shut down the ordinary functions of government.
Ordinary function, like the border, and control over it. Like he wants to shut down the ordinary functions of government like that. Or like, searching for people that are here illegally and removing them from the country, like that kind of normal enforcement of law and normal function of government, that kind of thing. Oh, no, you mean like how you're supposed to kowtow to every leftist senator and congressman and basically do whatever they want. And even if you're doing a press conference and answering questions for the public, oh, senators come first. Right. Because you don't serve the people. You're the senator. You're higher than them. These people are so completely, you want to talk about what actually is a disgrace and what is destroying the country? This idea right here that is so far removed from anything that is related to our Constitution or our founding documents, where these fucking assholes somehow have built themselves up to have the gall to have a no kings rally as they run around acting like they're better than everybody else that they're supposed to be the servant of. This is mind-blowing. It's insane. But that's what they've done. That's what the Democratic Party has done. They're better than everybody. They care about the environment. They care about everyone. They care about the quality of living for every human being. Meanwhile, they want to make sure that you lose everything you have. You have to pay your fair share, meaning most of your salary. There's not one policy that they offer anymore that has anything to do with safety or with competitive marketing or with more fair regulation. It's all about taking money from people that have money and giving it to a bunch of people that have done nothing to earn it. That's basically everything they propose. And why? Well, of course, racism. It's always something to do with inequality, racism, and this is just a harsh reality that adults usually can come to terms with. But we're obviously not dealing with functional adults here. We're dealing with children who never learned how to cope with reality. There's a time when you have to recognize that maybe, just maybe, you don't have the ability to do something that you're going to earn millions and millions of dollars from every day, that you're going to be able to you're going to make less than that, but you're going to find a way to make it work. You'll make it work and be happy. It'll be comfortable with the salary that you'll make. But that's not enough for these people. That's not enough because they think they're so freaking important. That's why you get the impression, these people haven't thought about their constituents once since they got to Washington, D.C. Not one time, especially some piece of shit like this. Like Adam Schiff. He hasn't thought about his constituents even while he's campaigning. He's not thinking about that at all. What he's thinking about is, how am I going to get Trump and how am I going to raise my profile so that I can be president? That's all this piece of garbage has thought about since Trump won the freaking election in 2016. It's all he's cared about. And you can see it in the way he asks questions in the Senate, the way he addresses people like Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel. You can see it in the way he addresses everyone. He's the most smug, arrogant piece of crap I've ever seen in politics. And that's saying a lot. But there's a reason he's looked at so negatively. And I got to say, for him to have gone from censured in the House to running for senator, and the people of this state's southern section to be so stupid as to reward the son of a bitch for everything he did by promoting him to the Senate. Bravo. Well done. Well done. I'm not saying anything going on down there is something that most certainly the cops don't deserve that. But man, all I can think is that, man, you get what you vote for. You get what you pay for, you get what you vote for. And this is the guy that you put your faith in. Let's see what he has to say about Senator Padilla. Let's see how he praises him with his unending support. Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Went there to observe and to ask questions.
Oh, here's a bonus.
And I watched with horror on this video, seeing these agents grab my colleague, my fellow senator from California, grab him, push him out of the hearing. And I am shocked by how far we have descended in the first 140 days of this administration.
Oh, my goodness.
Because
he's never seen this.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Now Cory Booker.
Spartacus is up there again.
When does it stop?
When
Spartacus is angry.
The United
If you
States.
can force him to kneel to his knees
Force him
violently,
to kneel.
when does it
You hear the
stop?
language they use.
This is a test.
This is why Glenn
This
Beck
a
is
crossroads.
in the background.
This is it.
A day in which the character of this body will be defined.
You can see it in the way that that they're on Glenn Beck's show. They're making a joke out of it because it is a joke. It's an absolute joke to listen to that and think of it as something serious. The guy is so obviously putting on a performance. That's all this is. This is high school theater, and what really gets me is you think about this part, like, oh no, he's being pushed out of an open Q&A session where he's a member of the Senate and should be allowed to ask questions. Yep, like everybody else, when the floor is open to ask questions, not whenever he decides to barge in and just start asking questions and yelling over everything, including the secretary. Like, that's not how this works. That's not how this has ever worked. You're rewriting the rules once again, just like you did. It's like, it's amazing how, like, it always is the Democrats that they know best. They know the best way to handle this. So, for example, when we have a situation where a decision is coming out from the Supreme Court that's a controversial decision and it gets leaked somehow, because of course it got leaked because it was about abortion, and a bunch of lunatics who worship child sacrifice come out and go to picket in front of the homes of dissenting justices who are against reaffirming the Roe v. Wade decision and overturning it. They decide they're going to go picket out in front of their homes, and despite the fact that in the United States Penal Code there is a law that's already on the books that says that it's illegal to picket, parade, or demonstrate outside the home of a judge. I think in the wording it's any judge, not just a Supreme Court judge, but any justice that is with the intent to influence that judge's decision. Now, obviously, that was what they were doing. There's no question about that. They're attempting to influence the decision of the court. And they were picketing outside of their personal homes. They were showing up in front of their children's schools. They were showing up at their churches on Sundays that they go to worship at. They were showing up at different places where, they know that their husband would work or their wife would work. They're showing up anywhere they knew that them or a member of their family would be. So obviously it's meant as a tactic of intimidation or harassment, which it's already against the law. And it goes so far as to have somebody that comes all the way halfway across the country with a bunch of tools to try and break into the home of Justice Kavanaugh and murder him. And luckily there were people there to stop it. But at that time, the head of the DOJ, the infamous, and how could we forget, the brave soul Merrick Garland, gets up and his answer is that even though there's a law against it, even though it was within our power to remove the threat, get them out of there and not have to worry about it anymore, instead we did something something even better. We decided to have Capitol Police sit there and watch these people protest and make sure that no one threatened the justices' lives. And I'm sorry, what? So you watch them while they're committing an act that there is a law against, and decided not to arrest them, decided to let them continue doing what they're doing. But if there was any threat to the judges, which you acknowledged by that statement could have arisen based on the volatility of the situation, instead of just removing the threat entirely, you decided to let it go so that people could continue to break the law and picket in front of the homes. And once again, look, I'm not saying this as a way. Look, you still have freedom of speech. You can say that anywhere. You can go out to any social media site, any street corner, and people did. They went to street corners. They went to every social media website. They went on every platform hosting videos or podcasts or whatever, and they voiced their opinion on the Dobbs decision. They did that over and over again. It's not about the speech. It's about the intent to influence the judge's decision by harassing them. The same thing that is used in courts with jury trials to make sure that the jurors aren't influenced by the mobs of people, even though that obviously happened in cases like Derek Chauvin and God knows how many cases that happened in during the ridiculous BLM era. But it looks like, who knows, we may have a return of BLM 2, the revenge. But that's the rationale that we're working off of. And then the senators keep asking, well, it's against the law. I mean, you could have just arrested these people and removed them from the scene entirely. And they just says, well, my top priority was the safety and security of the justices and making sure that they were... Okay, well, if that was your main concern, why didn't you arrest the people that could have been a threat to the justices and remove them? I was like, what are you talking about? The whole thing makes no sense. There's laws on the books that allow you to do that. And even after you were told that, and then the picketing continued, and the protests continued, and they continued to do it in front of their homes, even after the assassination attempt, and it goes on and on. And once again, he comes before Congress yet again, and even his assistant secretary of Department of Homeland Security comes in and just repeats the same canned line. Our number one priority is the lives and safety and security of the justices and their homes and their property and their families. And okay, then why didn't you arrest them? Well, we had an unprecedented number of Capitol Police that were there on site, as well as the U.S. Marshals, which, by the way, there was even training videos shown to the U.S. Marshals, which instructed them not to arrest the people, not to do anything to break up the picketing or the parading, but to just to make sure that it didn't escalate to a situation where there could be harm that came to the... it is so ridiculous to sit there and say that, well, we were doing everything we could to make sure that... No, you weren't. You obviously weren't doing everything you could, because the thing you could do that it was listed and legal to do based on our own laws, you're deciding not to do. And it's the most sure, foolproof way of making 100% positive that, yep, I don't have to worry about those guys anymore. Yep, they've been arrested, and they can't come within, they probably get a restraining order of some kind against them, and we're good. But no, you didn't want to do that. And if you're going to say that it's free speech, once again, you can say that wherever you want. This is about the way the legal system works in the United States, and the idea of a free and fair process of judicial hearing to decide on an issue that is controversial or is unclear, and as far as the wording or the statute based on constitutional law, in any case where there is some ambiguity there and it needs to be decided, okay, we can decide those cases, and the public can, hell, you can go on as much as you want and then send a letter to them saying that I think this is bad. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but you can't do it in a way that is obviously meant as an intimidation tactic. It's the same reason why, when you have people like, Antifa and who knows how many other freaking leftist organizations gathered behind the people that are rioting all over the place. It's obvious as hell seeing that why you would be a little bit fearful of people that are going to come after you, and then as soon as you take the measure of, okay, well, since it's going to be unsafe and not for me, I don't mind if I get put into harm's way and potentially have an issue where I get hurt, but I just don't want my family or my neighbors or my coworkers or anyone around me, I don't want them to have to suffer for this, so I'm going to I'm going to make sure that it just falls on my shoulders. Even with people like that, they can't do it. And why? Well, because in real time right now, we're having, well, anyway, the point is, you get the point. There's not one thing that you can say that's like, well, they shouldn't have done it that way. That's not constitutional. That's not lawful. That's not the way it should be. No, every single claim there is wrong. That's all false. They could have done that. They chose not to. Why? They wanted the protest. It's obvious why. And it's the same reason when it comes to masked men that they describe. It goes back to what I've talked about in journalism before. Like, there's never any coincidences about the way that people word things on media or the way that things are discussed and presented when someone's on television. They want to sound as intense as possible with their response. There's obviously a reason for that, and the reason is to gain the emotional support of people that might be a little bit more ambiguous on the situation, maybe a little bit more uninformed on the situation, or not up to date with everything that's happened already. And so for those people that might be a little bit more susceptible to the manipulation, they're going to see that and they're going to assume, well, this is obviously something that is terrible. If an official is saying this about someone else in government, that's a pretty strong. Yeah, it is, and it's completely and totally out of line to go and express it like that. Is that's a valid way of going about any of this. Like it doesn't work that way. So anyway, that's kind of the state of things as far as some more outrageous members of the House and the Senate are going. But I have some other things that we can go to. Just some points to hit, because I know, I mean, it's been forever since I've been. I do have something I'm going to end the show with, because been some interesting life events that have been going on lately that have made things looking a little bit more positive for as far as what's going to be going on in the near future. So I'm not quite. I'll close with that, but I got a couple more things I'm going to go through. Not anything super crazy, but they're definitely important enough to actually go over, because man. The most important one, this is well, actually, you know what I'll do? Let me grab another drink real quick, and I'll give you guys a break, too, for about 5 minutes. If you need to go to the bathroom, grab a drink, do whatever you need to do. We'll go ahead and do that. And also, I need to, while the mic is off, run the AC for a minute, because it's getting warm in here again. So, yeah. Give me about 5 minutes, and I'll be right back on air. If you guys need to go to the bathroom or grab a drink yourselves, go ahead, and I'll see you guys back here in just a few minutes.
punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool, act a fool if you like, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think it's tough. Well, try that in a small town, see how far you make it down the road. Around here we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town.
Welcome back. Just trying a little experiment out and seeing how it worked. So, looks like it worked all right. And I couldn't think of any better track for the moment than Jason Aldean. I hadn't heard that song in a while until about a week ago, and I was like, man, is it coincidence? I don't think it is coincidence. So, anyway, just a second. Yeah, this is actually a perfect segment to kind of go out on, because I thought this is really relevant to the situation right now, because if you're unfamiliar with the guy, this guy's name is Ami Horowitz. I don't know what nationality he is. He definitely is not originally from like the United States, but wherever he is from, he is definitely much more in line with the America First agenda right now, and he's very much against the sort of unhinged left-wing rioting that's been going on for quite a while now. But one thing that he does really well is he's been a documentarian for a large portion of his life, really, and he does a lot of the sort of on-the-ground, man-on-the-street interviews in a lot of his documentaries, and he's one of the people who's found out in a lot of instances it's not a good idea to try that. But in this one, he went in with this sort of unassuming sort of look where you're wearing similar sorts of ridiculous, dumb-looking clothing to make it look like, hey, I'm one of you guys. I know that's offensive, and I don't care. But anyway, he went in, so he was not gonna, make any alerts go off basically to anybody, and just asked around at the protests that he went to, and I think this was at both the main protests for the week, where there was the one spreading from LA about anti-ICE protests, and then the ridiculous No Kings protest. He got these people that were just attending the events to answer a few questions about what they actually believe. This is something that I'm sure all of us all know, but at the same time, it's something that you might not believe 100% unless you heard them say it, and you'd never hear them say it unless they were talking to somebody that they, thought was somebody that was among their own and agreed with them on what they were saying and blah, blah, blah. So whenever you hear the bullshit line about how this is a nonviolent protest, this is not about, being violent to anybody, this is just about protecting people that have every right is just like every other human being and blah, 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 blah. Nah, you're going to hear in this clip exactly what these people are about. They actually don't have any issue with violence. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to be the ones that they hope are carrying it out. They probably don't want to, anybody to breathe in their direction. But you can tell that they wouldn't mind at all if these are the kind of people that cheered on Luigi Mangione. Same kind of sick fucks that sit there and cheer on a man with a wife and kids getting murdered because he's in a business that they blame for injustices that happen in the country and the world as a whole, based on, you know, just the reality of life. These are people that just need someone to point the finger at anytime something bad happens, because they can't accept the fact that in reality there's harsh realities, and then there's the fact that there are bad people and evil does exist, unfortunately. They can't wrap their heads around the concept of evil, and it's unfortunately something that they struggle with, which is why they have no problem. I don't understand it in the context of how they, well, now I do actually a little bit more when they admit this, but I didn't until recently. Like, how do they, you know, have nothing but glorifying statements to make about places like North Korea, or nothing but nice things to say about Hugo Chavez, or you know, just like, oh, and of course, let's not forget the Palestinian people, and the two-state solution is what we all should be aiming for, like that kind of crap, which is like, hey, you know, if you're talking about other countries that you think are having their own issues and you want to speak on them, that's fine. But you're not talking about that. You're talking about modeling America around concepts that are proven failures of systems of government and absolute routes to nothing but chaos, famine, and death to the population. And it's the same old freaking ridiculous, that wasn't real communism kind of argument, where it's like, but they just didn't do it right. And it's some of the most pathetic discussions you'll ever hear, but, you know, that's what these people believe. So let's hear what they actually believe in their own words, and hear them justify, you know, everything, including violence, to get their point across. So this is, as I said before, this is Ami Horowitz, and I don't think this is from a specific documentary, or maybe it was. I can't remember for sure if this was coming out or if this was already out, but this also includes a short segment at the end where he kind of goes into detail about the actual, like, because you might think that this is just a, you know, selection of people that he talked to, and he makes clear what this was in terms of percentages of people he talked to at the end of the group of clips from the actual interviews. So let me pull this up real quick and we'll go into that, because this really is an eye-opener. This really is one hell of a way to see these people describe their worldview when they have their guard down just a little bit, just enough to get a peek inside of what's actually going on. And it's pretty clarifying. Okay, so I think we got it. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, whoops. There we go. Okay. All right, here we go.
But is it more about due process or more about overturning the system?
Overturning the system.
For sure.
Yeah, I think we have to overturn the system.
Overturn this whole American system.
The whole system needs to collapse.
Do we want to replace it with what?
I don't.
Do we need?
That's the thing. That's the thing. This might turn into something else. Those 13, how many countries are being banned from traveling?
Yeah.
They might have something as well beyond this too.
I mean, maybe we go like the Haiti system, or
it might spark
Yemen or Afghanistan.
Exactly.
That might work better.
Exactly.
Do you condemn the violence?
He's kind of trolling him, but it's funny that.
Do I condemn violence?
Yeah.
I don't condemn people for fighting what they believe is right.
In order to get your point across, sometimes there has to be violence.
Do you really condemn the violence, or do you understand it?
I would stand it. Stand up against the bully. Somebody's gonna need violence. So
Oh.
we need violence.
Hold on, it's not catching. Oh, geez, Louise. Hang on a second.
This is just the
Sorry.
beginning. This is just the beginning of what's yet to come.
Can you condemn the violence?
Oh.
Or do you understand it?
There we go.
I understand it.
We need to break shit down before we can rebuild.
Burn it down.
Burn it down.
Joining me now is filmmaker and journalist Army Horowitz. Army, were you cherry picking?
There, you heard it. Sorry for that. Was my mistake for switching it off for a second. But at least you could still hear the audio, and that's the important part because it's just an interview. But these people have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea. He's almost throwing random things out there that just on their face would sound like lunacy if you knew anything about anything really, and yet they have no fucking clue. They're just like, yeah, this could be a great thing that just becomes something totally different. Who knows what. So you're saying you want to destroy everything that we have here for a guess of a plan that you don't even know what it is yet. And violence is fine to achieve that end because this system is corrupt and needs to be destroyed. Do you know, in history, the only things to come out of that, to come out of sort of blind rebellion for no reason that's tangible whatsoever, is a very, very quick and intense collapse where everything pretty much is over after that. Maybe they want that too. I don't know. They don't seem like the wealthy kind that has a just in case of emergency yacht that will, ferry them off to another safe place where, in case of the nuclear fallout, they'll be fine. These seem like the kind of people that don't even have their own place. They probably, have never lived anywhere but their own parents' home and never probably will have to because they'll be convincing their parents that this activism is what their real calling in life is. But I'm sorry, when you have no clue what Afghanistan turned out to be, or what the Yemen situation is at the moment, I mean, do I even need to comment? But here's where it really is illuminating. So I'll just let this play out the rest of the way, and then we'll probably call it quits from there. But just listen to this.
There, or was that the majority opinion amongst the protesters you spoke to?
Yeah. So generally, the way I work, I lift the kimono a little bit, let you in on the process. Look, when I do a video, what you see is the majority view of who I speak with. Sure, there might be dissenters who think differently. But if they're not the majority voice, the video doesn't go out, or I make the video to reflect that. So generally in my videos, that's the majority voice. This video, Rita, was different. This was every single person. In fact, I had an addendum at the end of the video stating that. I spoke with over 30 people over the course of a number of hours, and not a single person deviated from the views you just heard. I also shot another segment. I didn't put the video. That's
incredible.
But I also asked them, are we on stolen land? Or should we give this land? This land,
of course they have plenty to say about that.
Arizona, New Mexico. Should we give it back to Mexico? They all said yes, or they said give it back to the natives. Look, let's be clear about something. These people are not stupid. I know it's an easy tag to put on people, say, oh, they're just fools, they're useful idiots. No, Rita, they know exactly what they're doing. It always got me upset.
Just because they know what they're doing doesn't mean that they're not stupid. I still think they're stupid. I think they're educated. I think they're stupid, though.
I'm sorry, you hollowing out the power of their intent by saying that. They know exactly what they were doing then.
Intent isn't intelligence. That's my point.
People, the destruction of the state of Israel, they knew exactly what.
I agree with them. It's disgusting, and I agree that the intent is there.
Which river, which sea? That's a geography lesson. It has nothing to do with the reality of how they felt. Same thing with this. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing.
They are stupid, and they know what they're doing, though.
There was an undercurrent of violence, right? The violence broke out night after night in Los Angeles. And you can feel it even in the daytime, where if you said the wrong thing or they thought you were the wrong person, they would take you down. I was standing there when somebody said, I love America, and took out an American flag, and they beat him, just like they beat me.
That's, if you listen to Andy No, he talks about that a lot.
The same thing happened here. It's the same, people wearing keffiyehs there. That's on purpose. There's an interconnection, the intersectionality between these people and the pro-Hamas voters. This is where we're at in this country, where they want the destruction
It's the
of the
same
United
crowd.
States. Rita. Yes, no question about it.
It is the same crowd. I mean, they are the same anti-American, anti-Western civilization crowd, whether it's BLM riots, whether it's pro-Hamas, whether it's crazy environmentalists, or in this case, these anti-Trump, anti-ICE. They're the same crowd. And what's worrying there, as you showed in the video, was that they have no issues with violence. Not only do they tolerate violence, they think it is a sound method to achieve their goals.
Absolutely, no question about it. And by the way, and we saw it night after night. Not in LA, all the BLM riots. I was also the Kings protest, the No Kings protest.
Yeah, that one.
In New York, and they did look. What you heard everyone whispering and talking and saying. You could hear them say it. Look, no violence. Let's not create violence. Even though that's where their intention was going, but they put it out there because they know that it's an issue for the narrative if they were violent. And I asked these people in the No Kings protest the same questions. And while it wasn't as across the board as it was in Los Angeles, I would say it's about 50% of people. I asked the same questions. 50% of the people at the No Kings protest felt the same way. They defended violence. They said this is stolen land. They didn't say this is not about due process, it's about destroying the system. So look, this is the left unmasked. Straight up, pure and simple.
It is.
That's what I mean. And that's the part that I'm really horrified by in a way, but at the same time, not so much, because I was kind of prepared to hear that out of all honesty, because you can get a glimpse. I remember the reason I brought up Andy Ngo wasn't only just because he's one of the few journalists that's actually gone undercover to cover Antifa in great detail and at great sacrifice to himself. He got beaten several times, ended up in the hospital a couple times from the beating he got from Antifa. But I remember he was interviewed by Jordan Peterson right after his book came out, Unmasked. Interesting, he mentioned this is the left unmasked, because the name of Andy's book is Unmasked, about Antifa. I forget the subtitle under Unmasked. It's something like going undercover inside America's Antifa movement or something like that. Anyway, it's just clarification. But the point is that these people are obviously, the reason I say that they're still stupid is because, they may be coordinated. They may know exactly what they're doing. They may know exactly what it is that they're hoping to accomplish, but they clearly know nothing about the realities of those situations. They know what they've been told by professors and by other leftist peers, people maybe a little older than them that were influential or whatever. But they have no actual hands-on experience or in-depth knowledge based on individual personal research into a topic, what it's like to watch a country go into a communist spiral, or watch a country fall into a period of time where they go into a serious decline based on their government becoming incredibly corrupt and pretending the whole time that they are a people. I mean, look at the Chinese. Look at the name of the Chinese political party, the People's Communist Party of China. Like, what's the name of the? Or how about the PLO? There's that's awesome acronym, and it's just like they're never going to come up with a name like the Death Squads of China, or the population massacring party, or obviously they're never going to be realistically honest with their intent or the discussions behind closed doors. That's just not going to happen. So you're never going to, like, I remember hearing somebody say that this was someone that was denying that October 7th happened, and when they were asked, like, well, where did you hear that? Was that? He's like, from Iran news stations, of course. And it's like, okay, you don't think for, a little bit that might be a slightly biased source? Like, no, that's not. They're not in Israel. They're not. I'm like, that's what I mean. So while they might know, a narrative, and they might know a perspective, and they might know it in and out, they know it based on what they've heard from a source that they unquestionably take as gospel, and they're not going to ever question it, ever. Now, it's just a really pervasive and quite frankly, almost a fad at this point, because these kids are, for the most part, just completely lacking in any kind of drive or purpose or any kind of feeling like they want to have any kind of accomplishments in life. They're just drawn to the sense of purpose that they're finding in this. And when you have, like I said, there's been this scene of this older lady that's been going around, and she is hysterically crying at this No Kings rally about how she's terrified, and she doesn't ever really say what it is she's terrified by. It's clear that it has to do with the administration, but what is it you're terrified by? Because is it about losing your Social Security? Because, if that's what it is, you're watching the wrong news stations, and that's the problem. And I can think to people in my own life that are watching the wrong news stations, and currently, right now, scared to death based on lies, based on nothing but pure lies. That's how effective they have become at spreading this hysteria. The people who are completely and totally reasonable in every aspect of their life, that's always lived without being able to be duped by obvious BS, are suddenly freaked out as hell. And why? Because they went for the jugular. They went right for the most scary thing a lot of people can imagine. It's losing their retirement when they don't have anything they can do. And they rely on that to keep living and to be able to sustain themselves at all. And you go right for the most frightening thing you could possibly present to that person. And not only do that, but do it like cut it off to where it's gone and you don't even have a chance to question it. It's just over. And that's how it's presented. And it's presented all under this narrative. It's because of this one man here that the people elected. And it's like, and that's why, you see such a huge split, because there's people that recognize that is bullshit. That's total and absolute bullshit that's been stirred up time after time by the same party who fearmonger about the same thing over and over again. And yet here they are again doing it again. And it's so terrifying that people don't have that pattern recognition, unfortunately, to recognize that they're just playing the same trick again. But it is still scary. But I'll close with this. Because I want to end on something inspirational. This is something that I heard that kind of made me at least a little proud, because I've talked about Senator Padilla, how he's unfortunately my senator, but I also mentioned at the beginning of the show that I was proud to see, when looking at the exit poll maps of the United States, that the whole Central Valley of California was definitely light red in terms of which direction they voted, and it was definitely right leaning, which for California is pretty incredible to see. It definitely was a swing for most counties, although it was not nearly the most populated counties, obviously. But but something came up recently, and it made me maybe a little bit more optimistic, because I've said this before. I live in a town that is very non-political. Like there's a lot of people here that are in camp of all kinds of different camps, but one thing they all have in common is they kind of keep to themselves. They don't want any extra drama or any extra bullshit. They just want to go about their lives, do what they need to do, and not have any extra trouble when they're doing it. Like they're pretty straightforward in that way. And there's another thing that's interesting. I don't know how this kind of came to be, but like we have a handful of venues here, and it was recognized over time that the people here really love like not even necessarily high profile names, but just music shows. Like they love their shows here. They love the entertainment here a lot. There's several places where big name events have gone on, and as a matter of fact, there was a little hole in the wall building that was just like a place for local bands to go and play. I was blown away when I heard one point like several years ago, Alkaline Trio's playing there. And I got there, and I remember going into the place, and I'm looking around like, I've played in bigger venues than this. Like my band literally have played several venues that are much bigger than this place. How in the hell is Alkaline Trio playing here? And it was just them. There was nobody that was even ahead of them. And it was the most local band environment even when they took the stage. They were interacting with the crowd more than I've ever seen any other band before. And it's like, if you're unfamiliar with Alkaline Trio, they're not a super huge band, but they've been pretty successful for a long time now. They've been around since the mid '90s. But I mention this because there's a weekly thing that goes on here where there's a park downtown that it's a fairly large park, and there's always a weekly event there where a local band has a pretty large crowd usually for a show that is like sort of mid-afternoon, and it's a way for people to go and chill and blow off steam and relax and bring their kids if they want, and it's just overall in general just a really cool, relaxed environment for people to let loose, have a good time, and watch some music. And a lot of tribute bands, a lot of cover bands, a lot of music that's from the classic rock style music. And there was a show this week, and oh geez, someone always calls in my stream, I swear. But anyway, there was a show a couple weeks ago, and I heard from somebody who went there, a family member of mine, mentioned that this was right around the time when the first protests were going on, first riots started going on, actually, in Southern California. And I think it may have been the next day even, or whatever. But anyway, it was around the time when they first started. And some group of people thought that they were going to start that up here. And I can look back to the first BLM protest. There was a small little group that was going around and protesting on the sort of summer, during the summer of that time period, like in 2020 when that was going on. And I remember there being all these rumors about it, but really it was just a small little group. They broke like some windows or something, but they didn't really ever even, this wasn't even like, the San Francisco flash mob robberies type of thing. This was just a group of people that were just protesting, got a little rowdy. That was about it. But so at this event at the park, these guys show up with their anti-ICE signs, and they show up to, obviously, I'm guessing, they were hoping that whatever was going on over there, that the band that was playing was gonna be like shout out to those, like they wanted attention for sure, and I'm sure they weren't expecting what happened though, because I heard it described to me, and this is what really made me feel. Well, let me just explain what happened. There was a lady who was dancing near someone I know, family member, and as soon as she saw these people stroll up and try to make their presence known, immediately her whole demeanor just changed. It's like, what the fuck? What the hell's going on here? And it was described to me as this is the most beautiful thing, that she immediately stands up and goes over to, well, I think she was standing already, she was dancing. She goes over, walks over, straight over to them, and didn't hear what was said. All that was known was that it didn't look very friendly, and it ended with a middle finger to the face of the anti-ICE guys and a very angry-looking lady walking away, and them kind of more or less dispersing and leaving not long after. I was like, this might be a pretty rough town sometimes. This might be a town where it is a little dangerous sometimes. There might be people here that are a little screwy and might have a few loose nuts, but there's also a lot of good people here. And this is also a place where people are like, look, believe what you want to believe, it's fine, but don't ruin my good time. Don't ruin my time period where I have to forget about all this crap. Don't come to my event and bring your bullshit political message and try and ruin everyone's day. You're not making anybody happy. You're not wanted here. Get out of here. It's the most proud I've ever felt of this town, to hear that situation go down, and to hear that about a town in the middle of the valley in California. And if we can have something like that down here, in the middle of the most notoriously leftist state in the union, I think there's hope out there for every state if that's possible here. Because man, that just made me feel like, wow. Good for that lady, but not just good for that. Good for everybody there in the crowd, because nobody wanted to deal with that. Nobody wanted that there. Nobody wanted to have to deal with it. And it's a type of thing where I'm sure, coming into an area like that and being in California and thinking, oh, these people will be on board, yeah, and then getting such a rude awakening like that, like, get the fuck out of here. I couldn't be more pleased. I couldn't be more pleased at hearing that news. So on that note, I'll call it an episode. I think I'm seriously trying, guys. I'm going to try to make the shows earlier again. I think that worked out so much better than doing these late in the afternoon or late in the early evening, middle of the evening, late shows. So I'm going to try like hell to make these shows go back to an earlier time. I've been hung up on a bunch of stuff lately, but things are finally starting to get a little bit more, the ground's getting a little less shaky and it's starting to be a little more stable, and hopefully soon I'll be able to say that it's on much more stable ground. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to get back to a point where at least, because I really need to cover that situation with Tucker. That was real bombshell information, and I didn't even get to go over the Joe Biden stuff today. So hopefully I'll be able to cover that in the very near future. Also, I got a third potential guest who will be appearing on the show. I won't mention anything other than potentially got another guest who will be on the show soon. But that's another reason I'm honestly feeling like, man, there's definitely still just as much potential here as there ever has been, and I just have to keep chugging along and make sure that I leave that keep that possibility open as far as something that you guys are going to eventually see. Because out of all the people I have that have been mentioning about either asking or agreeing to be on the show at some point, each one would be a very fun show. So, and just the idea of having different people on the show and having conversations with other people, I'm sure it would not only be more fun for me, but it'd be more entertaining for you guys as well. And so hopefully in the near future that'll be something that not just me, but you guys will also be able to look forward to. And I'll be able to make some announcements of that as soon as I have some things in stone. But until then, thank you guys once again. It's always overwhelming to get your support and to see the numbers that I feel like sometimes I don't deserve, but that roll in for the show. It's always very, very exciting to see that people are still watching the show when it comes out. No matter how unreliable I am, I still get viewers. So thank you guys so much for sticking it out, and I definitely appreciate it. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And I'll hopefully see you sooner rather than later. But until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Now, I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Sure.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out. What is
for credits?
I don't know what that means. To play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?
Yeah.
All right, go.